appropriate? Is your mom like a cool mom? Is she young and fun, or is she old and strict? What should I do? Do I need to have on a turtleneck? Can I wear a sundress? That's the kind of thing. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome or welcome back to Soap Lore, the official gathering place for newbies, novices, and OG diehard fans of the golden age of primetime. I'm your host, Jet, viewing and reviewing one of the soapiest, suzziest primetime storylines of 1981. We're back in Dallas, so whether you're new to this or true to this, sit back and enjoy. Tell the kids it's time to play outside or out of sight. Tell babe no questions, suggestions, or concerns for the next 25 to 35 minutes. Everyone else in earshot, cool, quiet, or kicked out are your only options because we have got to finish this story. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Soap Lore. What's up, party people and people who party? Welcome back to another fun edition of Soap Lore. I hope your day is shaping up fantastically. I am so eager to jump into Dallas today. Full disclosure, this is literally like my 6th or 7th time trying to record. I don't know what's going on today, but we're going to make it do what it do one way or another because this is a two-parter. I don't always know why that happens in the middle of a season. I can't really think of too many times that I've noticed this recently, but this first part, I will say, I had to watch it twice. I got a little eager last time, y'all remember? After Pam's little hookup, I guess. What do you call it? It was just a kiss, but I mean, it was like a romantic dinner. That's totally different. We'll get into that here in a second, but I was so eager to find out what was going to happen. I did go ahead and watch it once, and I didn't feel like there was a lot of time through. But the second time watching it, I was like, okay, yeah, they're really, really gearing up for something here. So go ahead and settle in, pour it up, clink your glass, kick your feet up. We're going to take advantage of these Ember months and try to watch as many episodes as possible of this primetime realness. Season 4, episode 11, Dallas. End of the Road, Part 1. I don't know if there is a soap opera survival handbook, but if there is, I think it's important to note that this is a breakneck speed all the time. They're not going to ever slow down. Even the slowest soap opera at this time would be Falcon Crest. There's still a speed in which you have to do things. You're not going to build up things like you would in a drama. Relationships have time to blossom. Relationships have time to grow. They go through their challenges. They overcome it. But this, as with all of Lucy's relationships, feels a little bit forced and a whole lot rushed. I'll tell you right away what this isn't. This isn't the Luke and Laura. Now, let me not sit here and act like I know what I'm saying. I know what I'm saying, but I don't know what I'm talking about. If that makes any sense. I know that around this time, during daytime soap operas, Luke and Laura were very popular characters. I've heard this over the years many, many times. I believe it's General Hospital. Please don't hate me if I don't. I'll look it up eventually. The point I'm trying to make is there was already television gold earlier on in the day. This is also about around the time Princess Diana and Charles are getting married. So it seems like weddings are in the air. It only makes sense that the youngest, most available, most vibrant member of the family be getting married. But Lucy just does not strike me as the wifey type. It could be because she's so young. It could also be because she's so Lucy. But ultimately, they haven't used her very well, in my personal opinion, over the last few seasons. So I'm eager to see more of her because I think there's so much potential there. And she really needs the practice. I'm just going to go ahead and be a little bit shady. She needs the practice. They don't know if she is, it's like she's teetering the line of youthful naivete and like this reformed seductress, but it's none of her lovers are catching on to that. She's a little girl with her lovers. She's a little girl at home. And I don't know, Lucy's always fallen just a little bit flat for me. So I'm eager to see how this whole wedding marriage thing pans out. We have got to talk about Brother Mitch, good Brother Mitch Cooper, and what we do and don't know about him. So the long and short of it is this episode, there are 3 different things going on. The crumbling and rebuilding of Ewing Oil, the wedding, and all the little moving parts that go along with that. And then the slow sort of destruction of Pam and Bob. And Pam and Bobby's relationship, which we go through every single season, but this time it actually makes sense. So maybe it just takes a little bit for everything to kick in. This episode starts off with all the women folk in Lucy's bedroom. Now, I have never seen Lucy's bedroom on the show. And if you're looking at the house from the outside, I'm just one of those people where I think in pictures and I'm always getting my bearings. So if I'm watching a show and maybe I've been to the place, maybe I've been to the airport, I'm always trying to orient myself within the building. When you look at the house, Southwark to me it's actually not that big. It's not that extravagant. Yes, they have a lot of land, but the house itself is a ranch style home and it looks like there might be 1 or 2 bedrooms upstairs. Doesn't seem like a ton of room, but you would think watching the show, there's all this space. So we get to see Lucy's room and Ellie's in there, Sue Ellen, Pam, of course, and Lucy is trying on what I thought was a nightgown for a split second. And then I remember what year it is. It looks suspiciously like my mom's prom dress. I'm like, oh, okay, that's probably her wedding dress. No sooner than I think that thought, Ellie confirms it. This is my wedding dress from 1930, blah, 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 blah. And let Ellie tell it her father had the fabric sent over from Paris because he wanted to stunt on all the fancy oilmen coming in. So you got to think about the history of this. Southwark was a ranch. Oil was relatively new, and I'm using air quotes there, relatively new in the 1930s. So I guess he just wanted to show that he fit in with all this new money. You know what I'm saying? So he had this fabric sent over from Paris, and apparently it cost him a lot of money. It was very stressful. I'm not trying to hate on the dress, but there's nothing about this that tells me this is an exquisite or even difficult to find fabric. It looks like my mother's valances or valances, whatever. You know, the cute little bowed curtain, the valance, I think it's called, with a kitchen window. It was all the rage back in the day. I don't know if people still do that. I actually need to put a kitchen curtain up now that I say this out loud. But it looks like one of that. It's got that frilly prairie, very, very much looks like a 1978 dress, but let her tell it it's from the 30s. So Lucy is in this and all the women start reminiscing about their wedding day. And Ellie talks about just, how nervous Jock was. He was so hot. He was so handsome. But he looks like he was about to pass out because he's not used to wearing like a tuxedo. He would have been much more comfortable in denim, but it didn't matter. He was just so hot. She was so into him. And it was just a beautiful day. Well, Sue Ellen's like, God, my wedding was so awesome. All those people, hundreds and hundreds of peoples. All those bridesmaids, all those ushers. She's talking about the hired help and the people looking at her. She doesn't mention JR not one time. She's like, God, that was the best day of my life. It was so lit. Pam's wedding day was a little bit different. She's like, God, Bobby and I were so nervous. We were in New Orleans at the courthouse. Didn't know what to think about Digger Barnes' daughter marrying a Ewing. It was, each one of them entered into marriage under clearly very different circumstances. Ellie, the poor farmer, quote unquote, poor farmer's or rancher's daughter. Sue Ellen, the beauty queen, marrying the millionaire. And Pam potentially breaking her father's heart by marrying this guy. So Ellie brings it all home and says, it's up to the bride who she marries. Sometimes, not everybody's going to like what you do, but it's up to you who your husband is. And Lucy's like, yeah, he's so great. Mitch is so wonderful, but all he talks about is studying and schooling and stuff. So here we get some of the underlying tension that doesn't really need to be tension because I'm Team Pam today. Y'all know Sue Ellen is my girl, but she's been on my nerves these last few weeks because I'm like, why are you up JR's butt like this? You know how he feels about you. You know what it is. He's only paying attention to you because he has nowhere else to go. But it's a good reminder as to why you should stay out of other people's business. If your best friend and her man, or your best friend and his girl, his man, whoever, they're breaking up to make up every other day, say less. Say very little about that, because the minute you say something, you're persona non grata once they get back together. And then you got to go pick them up when they break up. It's exhausting. And Sue Ellen is forgetting that she's broken up to make up umpteen many times. She's been kicked out of the house 2 times at this point. You would think she'd be a little more humble, but that's not her game to this episode. So Sue Ellen makes a comment about how wonderful it is to have an ambitious husband, but it's really hard. And then she looks over at Pam like, right, Pam? And I'm like, why is Pam catching these strays? Pam was daydreaming, which she seems to do a lot if you're watching this in real time. She's always kind of zoned out. But she says, no, there's nothing wrong with being ambitious so long as it's not obsessive. It's only been a couple of episodes before she made the executive decision to allow Mitch to agree to marry her. I said what I said. And if memory serves me correctly, she wanted to get married in about a month. So everything is moving really, really quickly. But I started to think back, like, I'm not really sure how we got to this point. He helped her when she was drunk. She came to his apartment. They went on a couple little dates. He was uncomfortable because she was wealthy, but not uncomfortable enough to, like, chastise her as he's doing all this episode. Mitch, although he's a bright young man, although he's kind of a hard worker, he is addicted to the struggle in a way that I don't really understand. We'll end with him. Let's get to the business aspect of this episode. I was folding clothes while I was watching this, and my husband comes in to tell me something. And then before I know it, I notice that he's kind of staring at the TV longer and longer. He's standing, and the next thing you know, he's sitting. And he's watching all of this, all this crap kind of play out. And he's like, Bobby and JR are brothers, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, he's doing that to his brother? I'm like, boy, have a seat. We were cackling like little old ladies. So the big undertone here is that there are forces now working against Bobby. And I can't figure out when the campaign against Bobby started. For all intents and purposes, the original storyline is he was kind of a playboy, not quite on the level of his brother, which is irrelevant because he would have been single. JR wasn't. But Bobby was kind of the fun one. They'd send him to Austin every now and then to talk to people, probably because he's always been the person he's a little more pure. You can kind of trust what he's saying. He's not the sleazy Ewing. He's the one you want to work with. And as time goes by, Bobby decides he actually wants to work a little bit more on other projects. He's not super crazy about oil, kind of like Gary. But, let's get into some construction. Let's work on the farm more, work on the ranch a little bit more. Things are going well. I can't seem to figure out who at any point had any beef with Bobby Ewing, but suddenly all these people are starting to pop up who would prefer to have JR back in the saddle. Now, mind you, at the beginning of this season, every Tom, Dick, and Harry in Dallas had wished they were the ones who put a cap in his ass, but now all of a sudden, they want to see him back on the throne. Namely, his secretary, who he has been sleeping with for a very long time. So there's this kind of back and forth between JR's secretary and Bobby's secretary. Now, Bobby's secretary, you can tell she's somewhat suspicious. She's very kind of closed mouth about anything that happens in the office when the other girl is there. But the other girl is doing her best to help JR slip in, slip out, read over some paperwork so that now he's 2 or 3 steps ahead of Bobby, and all episode Bobby is pressed. So Bobby has gotten back into the cartel. Jordan Lee calls 50 times this episode to remind us all that the Louisiana swamp is probably going to have all this money in it. We need $50,000 up front. Then you need $12 million on delivery. He comes by the office, Bobby presents him with the check, and Bobby's secretary is standing behind him. She's holding it down. But once Jordan Lee and his little friend leave, he's like, Bobby, should you have done that if you don't have the money? He's like, I have 3 months to come up with it. I'll figure out something. Meanwhile, all the little independent gas station owners are freaking out because the price of gas is rising. So Bobby wants to charge an extra $2 a barrel. They're insisting that this is going to put them out of business. Now, these are old contracts, and by the word contract, I mean these are just handshake. This is a gentleman's agreement that has been in the family. So he being Bobby, is trying to figure out a way to keep everyone happy. But number one right now is we're back in the cartel. I need to stay in their good graces, and I also need to figure out where this $12 million is going to come from. Now, JR is more than aware of all of this. So what he does is I don't know if he reaches out to this random guy, this rando guy. Picture him as like the Apple of gas, right? He shows up and he's like, Bob, I want to buy all of the petroleum, all of the refined gas from your refinery which would mean that Bobby's not able to sell it to the small independent people. He's like, I can't really do that. JR gets wind of this and he has a private meeting with the guy who's like the Apple executive for gas. And he's like, hey, I know how to get Bobby to fold. If you offer him $15 million up front, he's not going to be able to turn that down. Now, Bob goes to this little gas station in Braddock, Texas, which I guess they're saying this is where they live. They live right outside of that. It's not a real town. But he goes to the gas station. He has a quick little exchange with the gas station owner. Nothing too serious, but later on in the show, that same guy suddenly has beef with Bobby. So someone is talking behind his back, or somehow the word is out that Bobby is going to be even more scandalous than JR. Still not really sure how that played out. You'll have to kind of watch it for yourself. But just know that if he takes 2 steps forward, he has to take 3 steps back. They're about to have dinner. You know, they have their pre-dinner ritual where they have a little pep rally and everybody drinks alcohol in front of a recovering Sue Ellen. And it's Bobby, JR, and Jock. Bobby starts to tell Jock that they're back in the cartel and that they need to raise this money. And the long and short of the whole scene is that JR is basically feeling out Jock. He's stirring the pot about raising the money. He's stirring the pot about the deadline just to kind of see how Jock reacts. Now, Jock is excited that they're back in the cartel, but he's like, Bobby, is the company doing so bad that I can't even take out $12 million? And Bob's like, no, it's just, we don't have that, like, it's not liquid. I need it liquid. The company's doing great. We just don't have that kind of cash right now. Jock's overall attitude is, don't really worry about that. It takes no time at all to raise $12 million. So now JR is like, okay, that's not going to get Bobby kicked out. What can I do to escalate that? So that guy that Bobby had bumped into at the gas station later on bumps into Jock and JR. I'm trying to make sure this isn't out of order. I don't think it really matters. They had been day drinking and they decide where they need to go get gas. So they go to that gas station and the guy's suddenly all salty. The owner is super salty. Like, man, I'm not really in the mood to do any favor for any Ewings. I heard that Bobby's about to jack the price up, this, that, and the third. And Jock's like, dude, Bobby didn't do anything like that. He would never do that. And if he ever did, he'd be out of Ewing Oil before the ink could dry. He would be out instantly. So now JR's plan is in order. Okay, let me make sure that Bobby takes that $15 million deal. Either he's going to take the deal and screw over the little guys and embarrass the family, get kicked out that way, or he's going to not take the deal, not have the $12 million, and then piss off the cartel one more time, making sure they never get in again. Either way, it is a win-win. JR has laid the stakes, or it has freed his time up for other endeavors. And you know what his favorite endeavor is? You know what it is. It's one of 2 things. He's either banging a secretary or banging somebody's sister. Enter Mitch's baby sister. Actually, how do I want to do this? Pam and Bobby. I've already said Bobby is busy from sun up to sundown because he's having to duck and dodge and make these deals or try to find deals. He's trying his best to find this $12 million without screwing anyone over and by keeping his word. But it's becoming a nonstop it's a 25-hour day for him. He's getting no sleep. He's not really, if he's at home, he's going over paperwork. He's trying to find money where he can. He's meeting with lawyers. Different people are dropping by. And Pam is still just minding her own business, running the store. She's keeping it cute. She's off to her side. She don't bother nobody. She don't talk about anybody. She don't start nothing. She's minding her own business. And this Alex guy is still fiending for her. She turned him down. She's like, you know what? He keeps coming by the office. He keeps setting up these lunch meetings with her boss. And her boss is she knows what's going on. And she also knows that Pam isn't 100% comfortable with it. So she continues to cover for her. And eventually he calls. And she tells him that it's not that I'm avoiding you. It's just that I should not see you. We can't do this. He's like, I don't mind that you're married. She goes, I mind that I'm married. I'm trying to be on the straight and narrow. Just let me live my life. And he's like, listen, I can't break up a happy home. So if things are cool, no harm, no foul. If they're not, no harm, no foul. What do you have to lose? She ain't really trying to hear all that. But Bobby's absence is starting to take a toll on her. She talks to him one night and she's like, we've been making sweet, sweet love and forever. And he's like, yeah, it wasn't that long ago. She's like, well, when was it? He couldn't even remember. And I guess he tries to initiate it and she gets totally offended. Like, I wish you would. Pamela the Ewing does not need to be pity pumped, if you She said, no man alive has ever tried to make love to me out of pity. Please don't play with your girl. Please don't play with me. So now Alex is on her mind a little bit stronger. Keep that in the back of your mind. Gotta talk about old Mitch. Okay, working his way through school, is reluctant to take anything from Lucy. It's difficult to tell if it's just pride or if he understands it kind of diminishes, he feels like it diminishes his work and his hard work, or does he feel like he's going to owe her something? That was the impression I had at first, but as time goes by, he storms off. He gets very frustrated with her over and over again. And I've never really felt like the kid was that into her. So he seems like your friend's older brother who knows you have a crush on him, but he's not into little kids. So he's just like, oh, that's so cute. That's the vibe I get from them. But they're lying in bed in his little bitty apartment post-coitus, and they're going over the logistics of his family. Now, his father's deceased, so it's just his mom and his little sister, Afton. Lucy tells him that she's, okay, I'm going to go with you to the airport. Oh my God, what should I wear? What should I wear? He's like, wear something simple. They'll be dressed simply. Dude, that's such a dude answer. She doesn't mean like, do I need to wear Dior? What she's saying is like, I don't want to look like a hoe in front of your mom. I need to be dressed appropriate. Is your mom like a cool mom? Is she young and fun? Or is she old and strict? What should I do? Do I need to have on a turtleneck? Can I wear a sundress? That's the kind of thing. But he's like, no, I need you to look a little bit poor if you can help it. Like, is this a fetish, Mitch? I don't really understand why you keep bringing this up. She looks amazing this season. So I knew she was going to put that ish on regardless. So she's like, okay, cool. I got him a room at the Fairmont. Now I'm thinking the Fairmont Inn, that isn't the Wynn Hotel. It's not, the Kevin McAllister Home Alone 2 hotel. It's just, hey, it's a hotel. It's nice. He almost gets offended. Like, no, they're going to stay here. My mom has probably never even seen the inside of a hotel room. Like, oh, okay. You know who you sound like? You sound like Valine, fresh off the pumpkin patch, but not really, Mitch. Not really. You have an entire apartment. Why wouldn't you want your mom to be comfortable? Once again, the money makes him uncomfortable. And I'm super annoyed at this because I feel like he's married more to a struggle. What point are you trying to prove, and who are you proving it to? At some point, you got to live and let die. It reminds me of that guy, David Goggins. You ever heard of him? So he's like this Navy SEAL here in the U.S., or he was a Navy SEAL. And if I remember correctly, he couldn't actually pass any of like the physical exams first off, like when he first tried. So he hunkered down. And within like a month or 2 months, he lost 100 pounds. He got in this great physical shape. And he continued to do this over time. He describes, if you're eating something, please put it down. Trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. Next 60 seconds, fast forward if you can. He describes how he's running these marathons and they're like super intense. They're super long. They're longer than usual. And he describes like the way his body is shutting down. His feet are bloody and bleeding, like pus and all this stuff. He's defecating on himself. It's just so intense, but he just keeps pushing through because he believes in this mental fortitude and this mental toughness and nothing can break me. I can keep running. Well, that's kind of what he does. He just runs a lot. He runs through these extremes. He runs through the desert, through the mountains. His body fails him almost every time. And I respect that because I understand that you are proving a point. You have the mental fortitude to mind over matter. You can achieve any goal you set in front of yourself. His just happens to be running. Now, I understand if you're in the woods, outside of pleasure, hear my words, please. If you're in the woods and you need to run through the mountains because your plane crashed and you need to survive. These are wonderful, absolutely impeccable skills that I would just love to have. However, if you were doing this just to run a marathon, you doo-dooing all over yourself. It seems a little extreme to me. I think if these things are happening to you, it's because you were in a position where you don't have another choice. If you were choosing to do that, that's on you. If you are choosing to live in a 2-room bedroom in a shack shanty made out of tinfoil cans and shower curtains because you want to, that's different than you struggling. It kind of, in my opinion, it sort of undermines your work even more. Not that you need to have all your food on a silver platter, but there's some nuance here. It's okay to, for crying out loud, let your mom sleep in a bed. Let her sleep in a hotel. It's cool. Nobody's going to think you're a bum son because your wife's family bought a $30 hotel room. Relax, Mitch. You're doing too much. So they eventually get to the airport. Lucy looks so cute. I don't know who the stylist is again, but they did their thing. They're at the airport, and Afton and her mother, who is Mitch's mother as well, come down, and they are just as cute as they can be. But I'm looking at the mom, and I'm like, oh my God, who is that? Who is that woman? She looks exactly like the original Barbie. The vintage Barbie. Pull up vintage holiday Barbie or the original Barbie with the thick eyeliner and the mole. She looks exactly like her, but I'm like, well, that can't be. This woman, if my math is math, and she would have been way too young to have been the model for that Barbie. Who is she? Then it hit me. Dang it, that's Endora, Samantha's mother. I used to love Bewitched. That's one of the many shows I would watch with the geriatrics and my grandma back in the day when I was a little kid. I remember, I'm assuming it was on TBS or TNT. I feel like TNT in the mornings would play a lot of Elvis movies. It was either TNT or TBS or both. But The Munsters, Andy Griffin, Sanford and Son, All in the Family, Three's Company, I Dream of Jeannie, and one of my personal favorites, Bewitched. I thought that show was so funny, and I particularly liked Endora because I thought she was so cute. She was so fly, and her total and complete lack of respect for Darren was hilarious. Took me years to realize that Darren was JR, at least one time. That whole timeline is very mixed up for me. Of course, I'm watching this in syndication. So I'm like, oh my God, that's Endora. It's not Endora. She's far too young to be her. It's an actress named Anne Francis. Anyway, Mrs. Cooper is elated to meet Lucy. She's so sweet. Mitch's little sister, Afton, beautiful girl. But she don't have no home training because not 10 seconds into the conversation, she's like, oh my gosh, do you really have all that money? And Lucy's like, oh, well, I don't, but my family sure does. Mitch is like, oh my God, can we talk about something else? The mother is also embarrassed, but she holds it a little better. She's like, now, I know my son hates to talk about money, but we sure do appreciate you being accommodating, not asking for anything, just being lovely people. So Mitch and his mother walk ahead, and Afton makes another comment about her being a youth. She goes, oh, I've been reading up on your family. And Lucy's like, please don't hold that against me. She's like, oh, girl. They kind of laugh it up. Lucy even asked her to be in the wedding. Would you be one of my bridesmaids? Oh my God, yes. Everybody is getting along swimmingly. It's perfectly lovely. I was really glad that Mitch's mom said that. So it proves that he's just kind of always been like that. Worried about the money. Like, boy, shut up. Shut up. So Lucy ends up, let's see. She invites them over to dinner. She doesn't tell anybody that she's taken them shopping a little bit. So Afton shows up and she is looking so cute. She's got on the cutest dress. It fits her like a glove. Mom looks lovely. And this is at that impromptu pep rally right before dinner. So the whole family's there. She introduces everyone. And Afton and JR lock eyes. So you already know what's on and popping. And Mitch kind of clocks it too. But he doesn't really say anything. It's in that awkward position where, like, you know what you're seeing, but there's no proof. It doesn't matter what you know. It matters what you can prove. So Mrs. Cooper sits down by Ellie and they're just having this really warm conversation. Mitch comes over and he's like talking to his mom. He's like, Mom, why did you let her take y'all shopping? She goes, just shut up, please, Mitch. Look at your sister. She's never had a dress like that. And she does look gorgeous. He goes, I know. I just wish I'd been the one to buy it for her. Nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly noble. But this is, I don't know, he's addicted to the struggle in my personal opinion. So later on, Lucy has a bridal shower. Mind you, all her friends are wealthy. All the old ladies from the Daughters of the Alamo have dropped off gifts and whatnot. And Afton is sitting by Miss Ellie, but all she's worried about is JR. Now mind you, when they were sitting in that room, sitting in the little waiting area before dinner, Sue Ellen saw the way JR looked at her, and she just kind of rolled her eyes like, oh God, here we go again. That was nice while it lasted. Day of the shower, JR is upstairs. Sue Ellen and him have a little fun right before the party. But downstairs, Afton is sitting by Miss Ellie, and she's like, oh my God, is that JR's car? Where is he? Ellie's busy watching Lucy open gifts. She goes, well, I mean, he didn't want to be in the way. It's a bunch of ladies down here. He's not here. Afton goes upstairs. Lucy continues to open her beautiful gifts. When she goes upstairs, she absolutely goes to JR and Sue Ellen's bedroom. He's laying across the bed reading Time magazine about prostitution and whatnot. He knew she was going to come up there, and they have kind of a sultry exchange. They end up making out. And she's like, okay, bet we're not going to do it today, but go ahead and pencil me in. We're going to go ahead and make this thing official. I was like, God dang it, JR. You cannot manage to stay out of somebody's sister. He loves a sister-in-law, don't he? Anyway, the old ladies want to see the baby. So Sue Ellen is told by Ellie to go upstairs and fetch him. Like it's Ellie's baby and not Sue Ellen. I could not live in that house as a full-grown woman under Ellie's thumb. I know she's nice enough, but enough is enough. I want the baby to stay upstairs. If I wanted him down here, I would have brought him down here. It's all about Lucy, but no. She goes upstairs, and as she's coming in the house, Afton is coming down the stairs, still going on and on about, oh my God, this is a beautiful house. I was just showing myself around, and you're so lucky to live here and have a great husband like JR. So she's making it more than known that she's a little bit sweet on him. And Sue Ellen is definitely picking up on this, but again, it doesn't matter what you know, it matters what you can prove. So by episode's end, Mitch shows up, Bobby, everyone else in the family comes down. They're looking at Lucy's wedding gifts. Everything's kind of strung out on a table downstairs by the pool. And there are silver platter after silver platters. I'm looking real closely because I just like to. And she's got like a food processor. She got the blender, some pots and pans, lots of silver crap. And the whole family's there. They're just kind of admiring it. Mitch shows up and he's like, whoa, we're going to need a whole new, like a storage unit for all this stuff. Well, JR goes, well, you can afford one. I mean, a young enterprising guy like you know there's a job for you at Ewing Oil. Within 2 years, you'll be making $200,000. Now, his mom is like, oh my God, that's awesome. And Jock goes, well, Lucy, I mean, I was going to say this until after the wedding, but your gift from Ellie and I is this new condo. It's going to be a big old condo. There's plenty and enough room for you two and all your silver crap and a baby even if you want. And JR just adds, he's adding fire to the fuel. He already knows what's going on. Fuel to the fire. He knows what's up. So he says, well, honey, as soon as you get pregnant, I'm going to buy your house in this nice neighborhood. You don't have to worry about anything. Well, this sets Mitch off. He's like, well, fine, there we go. Our whole future's planned out ahead of us and blah, blah, blah. If it means being with Lucy, I have to be a Ewing. I hate the Ewings. I hate your money. And if I have to marry you and deal with this, and I don't even know if I want to do it. Then he storms off. Ellie tells her not to chase him. Now, person to person, if somebody did that in front of you to your niece, would you feel good about them? Baby, we're not chasing you. I'd send the men after him. How dare you, Mitch? I understand where he's coming from. You want to make a name for yourself and do the best you can and just kind of respect that this is where we're going to live. Y'all don't have a say in everything. You know what? Color me hypocritical. Didn't I just say not 2 minutes ago that I would not want to live in a house where Ellie is carte blanche? She can do whatever she wants, say whatever she wants. You telling me when to pick up my kid, when not to pick up my kid. I just said that. And then have the nerve to be like, Mitch, I don't know what you're going on about. I know exactly what he's going on about. I totally get it. Shame on me. I had forgotten about that. He doesn't want to be under their thumb. He's had the freedom to kind of forge his own way. And guess what? He's doing fine. His life is getting better. And he wants to marry the girl, not her money, not the rules, not the prestige, not the notoriety. Is just not in it for him. And you know what, Mitch? I get it. I don't think it's a bad idea I think the condo seems fine to me. But he don't want to hear all that. You know what? A condo and maybe a car and maybe a honeymoon. If they got it, why not? It's not, it doesn't change your hard work. But we'll see how that turns out. Again, I just don't see this panning out. Lucy does not strike me as a one-man wife. She seems like a serial marrier, like Elizabeth Taylor. She'll probably get married 15 times or so. Alright guys, we're going to end it right there because I'm going to start watching part 2, season 4, episode 12, End of the Road part 2. I'm assuming this is the wedding. We're going to see if this all comes crashing down, if there's even going to be a wedding. Maybe, end of the road. That makes sense. Maybe there's not going to be a wedding. We'll find out soon enough. In the meantime, in between time, take care of yourself. Don't let some highfalutin family buy you silver platters and apartments and crap. You live in that tin can you call a house, and you be proud of it, okay? Make sure your mama sleeps on the floor when she comes over like a respectable person. Stay hydrated, stay moisturized, mind your own business, and keep all of your drama on TV.